Hey, Taylor Ellwood with Magical Experiments podcast today. And today's episode, I'm going to talk about requests that I get occasionally from people and some thoughts I have around those requests. Because every so often, what happens is I'll have someone who will contact me and they'll say, "Hey, I want you to do a magical working for me to give me some kind of shortcut in my life." And I actually had two of these happen this week. I had one person who basically shared that he wanted to be like an alpha male, and that he wanted all these changes and alterations to his life, and all these other things, that he wanted to basically be in a different career and other stuff along those lines. And I kind of initially thought, is this a joke? And then I thought, maybe this person for this person it's for real. And I wrote back and gave him the hard news that I'm going to talk about here, the hard truth. And I had another person who also contacted me and again kind of wanted, like, basically wanted special powers, wanted, like, wanted to have like an ability to do all these different magical activities, necromancy, elemental work, weather magic, and all this other stuff. And I get these. I get this every so often from people. It's kind of like somebody is like, "Hey, find a way for me to shortcut. To give me a shortcut in my life." And I'm like, if I could do that, don't you think I would have done it with myself? Don't you think I wouldn't have set things up a certain way for myself that way? Don't get me wrong, magic can do some very impressive things. You can get some really impressive results in your life, and they can be life-changing. But here's the hard truth. There are no shortcuts in magic or in life. And when you're doing magic for results, one of the realities of doing magic for results is that you also have to deal with the way those results show up in your life, and they can make things go sideways, because magic is not predictable in a lot of ways. Like, I can have a specific process in mind and a specific result in mind, and I can see how that all connects together and still have some stuff go a bit sideways, because what we're dealing with here is drawing upon the improbable and different variables in order to affect outcomes. So even with that, I want to note that, because those kinds of things happen. And it's one of the reasons why I say, in general, like, when I look at, like, doing magical work, I always kind of caution, like, be aware of, like, what you're getting into. Like, if you do magical work, for example, to bring somebody into your life, okay, like, you might bring someone into your life, but are you able to handle everything that comes with that person? Do you want to handle everything that comes with that person? And what happens if that person realizes, like, oh, hey, you did some magic, whether it was, I just did a general magic working to bring someone into my life, or you did something else along the lines where you're like, hey, I wanted name of person, which, I mean, we're not going to even get into the consent issues that go with that, but let's just say you did it anyway. Well, that can bring all kinds of complications into your life too, because that person may not really even want to be there. So when I look at magical work, and believe me, what I'm sharing here just comes from hard-earned experience too. When I look at magical work, I've never found that I've been able to get shortcuts to happen. I've done some stuff and I've gotten some great results. Like, and a lot of times how I've gotten those great results is, I've done the hoof work magically and mundanely in order to make things happen. And I've also known when to lay off of magic, which is a topic I'm going to have for another time on another podcast episode. But we'll talk about that another time down here soon enough. But really, what I want to kind of share here is, like, don't expect that somebody can just make your life, transform your life into something different. Like, if you aren't happy with your life, if you want things to be different with your life, then you've got to go out there and do the work to make those changes. Like, for example, let's say you're like, hey, I want to be this specific type of person. Like, I want to be able to bench lift 350 pounds. I want to be able to be a linebacker on football. Well, one, guess what? you may or may you might be past the age of being able to do that. But even if you aren't, you might not always get what you want. And you might also have to think about the fact that a person who is, let's say, a football player, for example, has had to make certain sacrifices and is making sacrifices. Do you want to make those sacrifices? But here's the other thing too. Like, I know nobody out there, and I don't care who they are, if they tell you otherwise, they are feeding you a line of BS. Nobody out there can whip up a spell and just miraculously transform your life, and then all of a sudden, like, whoa, here you are. You're that alpha man that is able to, last for an hour and a half in bed and do all kinds of other stuff, and has like a supersized whatever. Like, no, like, just stop. Please stop making ridiculous requests. And stop asking for things that you have to work for. Okay? If you want to learn how to lift 350 pounds, then go to the gym every day. Look at what you're eating. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Dedicate some time and discipline to that work. You may be able to do some magic to help you with that. I knew a guy, for example, who did some magic around weightlifting, in order to fine-tune his body and to kind of change the way his body was structured. And it worked. And yet he still had to go and lift weights. It wasn't like he could suddenly just lift 350 pounds. He used magic to enhance what he was doing, and it worked, and it still took time. And let's say you want magical powers. Let's say you're like, hey, yeah, I want some magical powers. Well, best advice I can give you is start studying and start going out there and doing magical work. When I was 18, I did a ritual, an elemental magic ritual, where I gave some of my blood and life essence basically to the elemental spirits in order to connect with them more deeply and to get some of their essence. I had been practicing magic at 2 years at that point. I had already done magic pretty much every single day. And I had read through the books that I had access to and done all the work in there. And then I'd come up with some ideas of my own. I worked those processes. And even when I did that ritual, it wasn't like all of a sudden I could quote unquote control the elements or anything else. I just had a closer connection with them. And in the, I don't know, it's 31 years now, so 29 years since, almost 30 years since, that I did that ritual. Has my relationship with the elements changed? Yes. I've discovered a lot of very interesting insights, and I've done a lot of interesting work, and yet that didn't happen when I turned 18 and I did that ritual when I was 18 years old. It didn't happen, because I did that ritual. It wasn't all of a sudden like, all the information about elemental magic is downloaded and I can do all these different things. No. The reality is, I still had to go out there. I had to do magical work. I had to go and have different experiences. Another example would be like, oh, you want to be able to connect with spirits and be a necromancer and contact the dead and work with the dead and command the dead and all that other stuff. Like, look, again, you're going to have to go and do some ritual work. You're going to have to read some books. You're going to have to go and try some stuff out. You're going to make mistakes. We all do. And you're going to learn some stuff along the ways. And it's not going to happen overnight. And again, I say this from the weight of experience, because I've done some necromantic magic in the past. I still do some necromantic magic on occasion. And it's not Hollywood, first of all. And secondly, you have to put your time in. Every single thing that I have done over the years is with magic is a result of all the preceding work I've done beforehand. So stop looking for shortcuts. Stop asking somebody else to basically grant you something that you want. Go and do the work. And if you want help, then sure, study with somebody. You can work with me for example. I do one-on-one spiritual consulting. I teach classes. I'm more than happy to work with you if you want to do that. Of course, understand as well, I'm going to charge you for my time, because my time is valuable. And if you want me to take time out to work with you, then, there has to be an exchange of energy. The key thing is, though, is like value the fact that if you're going to ask for that, yes, you're asking for that person to share their experience. And guess what? I'm still going to tell you, just like anybody else who teaches magic, who, whether it's teaching classes or doing one-on-one training, or if they're doing it right when they're writing books, they'll tell you the same thing, is you got to go out there and do the work. You got to go out there and do the magical working, have the experience, and let that experience be your teacher. You're going to learn some things. But here's the thing that's not ever going to happen as far as I can tell. You're not going to suddenly have Hollywood magic. Okay? I know so many people get caught up in this. They want Hollywood magic. That's a huge part of it. They're like, oh, I want to have all the special effects. I want to throw fireballs and lightning bolts, and I want to summon spirits, and I want to command the weather. Well, guess what? Weather magic is a very delicate form of magic, and you're working with a lot of complicated variables that you have to consider. And honestly, I would say in general, like, you ought to really consider, like, if you should even do weather magic. We've already messed up the weather enough as it is. Thank you very much. If you are going to do weather magic, again, consider, like, what you're doing. What's involved? And why do you want to do it? Like, what is it about? Is it about giving you a sense of power? Is it about you feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm a super Saiyan God and I can do whatever it is I want? I know I sound annoyed here. And honestly, I get it. I have been that person at a younger age where I had dreams and fantasies about what I might be able to do with magic. And what I've learned over the years is there is a lot that can be done with magic. And there's also a lot that, at least so far as I can tell, can't be done as of yet. That doesn't mean that maybe someday somebody won't discover something. My good friend Allison Tchaikovsky, for example, says that one of the things that she's doing as far as magic goes is she's trying to discover, like, if it's possible to have like an age of wonders with magic. And I think that's awesome. And she does some really impressive stuff, like with her pentacles. And yet at the end of the day, even if someone uses one of her pentacles, they still got to go out there and do the work. So please, 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 first of all, really take a good hard look at yourself. Why do you want this? And second, ask yourself, what am I willing to commit to? Because if you think that you can get a shortcut, you can't. And I'm going to actually share like a bit from my own life. Because while I haven't necessarily used magic to quote unquote try and get shortcuts in my life, I have once or twice and it hasn't really worked. I'll tell you what has happened though. There was one year, this was in like 2016, 2017. I was a business coach at the time. And I ended up signing up for a bunch of different marketing courses from these online marketing bros. And these were guys who were kind of douchey assholes, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, I took on some of their characteristics. I became a bit of an asshole myself for a while. And it almost cost me my relationship with my communities that I was part of at the time. It did cost me a really good friendship. That person will not talk to me to this day and basically has said, don't ever contact me. And yet, ironically enough, when I came out with my book, Inner Alchemy of Winter, and was like, if you took any of my ideas, I have a lawyer going through this. And I'm like, dude, no, I didn't. Because guess what? I never needed you to be the creative, amazing, innovative magician that I am. Newsflash. But even so, I lost that friendship because of things that happened there. Because I was trying to take shortcuts. I ended up signing up for these really expensive classes that taught me some interesting stuff. But then, like, what I didn't realize was, oh, guess what? You need to have an actual marketing budget for Facebook ads, which you don't have. And you actually have to have some products, which you don't have. And the end result for me was I ended up in a lot of credit card debt. I had to, for the first time in over a decade, go to work for someone else. And I spent the next 3 years working as a customer support rep at a call center, which was not fun work. In fact, I ended up spending more time doing that after, for a while. Like I finally got to the point where like, hey, I'd written some books and I was making enough money, I didn't need to do anything. Then I ended up getting divorced. And again, some of that was my mistake, and some of it was other stuff. Some of it was the other person. But regardless, the point is like there were no shortcuts in life. Even now, I'm at a place now where like I'm exploring self-employment again, and things look really good. But the thing is, a huge part of that is I am doing the work. At the time of this video, I spent the last month basically doing a lot of work every single day, setting up systems, setting up processes to support what I'm trying to do. And I got lucky and fortunate that somebody was like, hey, I actually happen to need your service. My point is, and part of that was because I'd put out there some of my previous experience. And yes, there may have been some magic that was part of that. I mean, I did some magic at the beginning of September, and it's pretty clear to me that it's continuing to unfold in my life, and it's opening some doors for me. And I'm letting it do that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not doing any other magic right now. But here's the hard truth. You cannot expect that a shortcut. I tried to go for a shortcut, and it cost me a lot in the end. And it wasn't necessarily a magical shortcut, but it was the same thing. And that's why I'm going to share, like, there are no shortcuts in magic or life. If you go and you buy that course and you think that course is going to solve all my problems, no, it won't. It's going to give you activities to do, and you're going to have to do those activities. And you're going to have to really buckle down and do the work. Or if you think, oh, hey, that person over there can grant me magical powers. You can do that, and that person, if they're not ethical, will take you for a ride. I am ethical. I will not take somebody for a ride like that. Like the 2 people that contacted me this week, the one person I said, hey, if you want, we can do some men's coaching, which is one of the services I offer. And to the other person, I said, if you want to do one-on-one spiritual consulting, we can. I'm open to doing that. What I didn't do was say to either of them, hey, yes, I can transform your life. I can promise that this will happen. Because I couldn't promise that, and it would be unrealistic. Even, I have occasions too where I've done some magical work and it hasn't worked out the way that I hoped. I had a client who contacted me for a magical working, and so far as I can tell, it hasn't quite worked out the way that either of us hoped. We'll see. I'm giving it a bit of time here, like one last thing that I've tried, but sometimes these things happen. And my point in sharing all that, one is like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to always get it right, and I know that, and I have no problem admitting that on here, and it's one of the reasons why I talk about sometimes why things don't work out. But 2, I really want to make this impression. Please, please, please stop looking for shortcuts. If you want something, then go out there and work for it. Go out there and find people who are really good at what you want to do and learn from them. Take their courses, buy their books, do one-on-one consulting with them. And be prepared to spend some money if that's what you really want. That's kind of the reality of it. I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now in one of my ventures, and one of the things I did is I just dropped a ton of money on going to a leadership conference. Why'd I do it? Because that's worth it to me. I know that I'm going to get some benefit from that. And I'll go there, I'll get that benefit, and then I have like another 10-week component to it, and I have work that I'm going to have to do each of those weeks. My point is, like, you can't shortcut your way through life. So stop thinking that you can. Stop thinking that there is a cure-all or whatever else. Take a good hard look at yourself and like what's going on with you. And then if you want help, sure, ask for it. Because we are all ultimately a village. Like, we're not all alone, and I'm not a subscriber to rugged individualism. I know that like the success I have in my life is in no small part due to the fact that I have people who believe in me or have connected with me or are like, yeah, I want to learn from that person. And I'm grateful to each and every one of them. but I don't go looking for shortcuts because I've been there and done that, and I've seen what it costs. For me, it cost me, honestly, I would say it probably cost me a good 7 years of working for somebody else 40 hours a week. People that I didn't really want to work for. I mean, the last job that I was at in particular, I didn't like the guy I worked for. And I had to put up with a lot of micromanaging behavior, but I did it because I had to do what I needed to do. And here I am now where I've gotten free from under his thumb and I'm doing my own thing. And you know, some people might say, well, you're a magician. Like, it sounds like what you're describing. And I'm going to say, yeah, I'm a magician and I'm able to conjure up some great results. And sometimes I still have to deal with the realities of life. All of us do. There is nobody, and I mean nobody, who has not had to deal with hard moments in life. If you think that Matt Oren or Jason Miller or some of these other big name occultists who offer services now and all that have never dealt with hard moments in their lives, they have. And if they're not being honest about it, they ought to be. I'm not saying that those two aren't, because as far as I can tell, they are. But I'm just saying, like, if somebody's telling you, oh, I've never had to deal with a hard moment in life, bullshit. So again, stop looking for shortcuts, please. Don't come to me for shortcuts. I'm not going to help you. I'm going to have a hard truth for you. You're not going to like what you hear, and you're wasting both your and my valuable time. Respect yourself enough to say, like, if I want this, yes, I'm willing to invest in these things, and I'm willing to accept that it's going to take some time and hard work. It's just the reality of life. And I'm giving you that with a bit of hard truth, but also with love and compassion, because I get it. I get wanting to have opportunities open up. I get wanting to have things go your way. And they can, and they do. But you've got to put the work in also to make it happen.